listen up, y'all. It's the queen of automation, Megan Donnelly, here to give you inspiration. Founders and business owners gather round. I'ma show you how to build systems that'll astound. Streamline your processes, no need.
Welcome back to the Queen of Automation podcast, where we talk about why technology is only good when it works and how I help you make it work. Today, I'm delighted to have Kelly Meerbott. She, of course, is in the Brand Built community because I love my Brand Built community people. And Kelly is a very cool lady because she has worked with some really big, cool people, but she is a leadership coach and she's helping high performing leaders. So she's talking to the really cool of the really cool up here and coaching them to just scale with integrity, right? Not burn out. And when you're at the very, very tippy top, and I won't go too much into it, I will let her jump in and kind of tell you all about herself. But when you're at the very tippy top of your game, it's super lonely. It's super overwhelming. It's super intimidating. Everyone expects you to be on 100% of the time. And when you can't be, then self-doubt creeps in and you start beating yourself up. And in walks Kelly to make all that go away, hopefully. Otherwise, you don't work with her. I don't know. But anyway, Kelly, tell everybody where you're tuning in from and tell us what you're working on these days and all about your coaching business.
I am right outside of Philadelphia in a township called Narberth, and Narberth is our version of Mayberry. Like, it's this little 4,200 person town, and people have lived here for decades, but it's very diverse, which is really, really cool. And Philadelphia is, on a good day, 15 minutes away by car. On a bad day, a lot longer than that.
An hour.
But first of all, I got to give a shout out to my Brand Built buddies because they're amazing. And honestly, that community has really breathed life into me. I was feeling disenchanted as a entrepreneur and feeling very lonely. And I've been doing this for 16 and a half years. And I've had ebbs and flows, but not like this. And when Nat Berman came into my reality, it's like everything changed. And then of course that brought Darren, who is like my brother from another mother because we're both wise asses, which I love. And then there's you and like everybody else that's part of the community. You know, I have not met one person where I'm like I don't want to be around them. Yeah. They're all like incredible and really helpful. So anybody who's looking for community, this is a great community and tons and tons of value, like from webinars to the relationships to being on podcasts. So I highly recommend it. Okay, so what am I working on?
Hang on, stop the presses.
Stop the presses.
That's going to be a review that we are going to now cut and give. Just letting you know, I'm going to clip that and be like, here we go, Brand Built people.
Yeah, you absolutely should. And I'm constantly shouting you guys out on LinkedIn because I'll just say this. I don't know why there's a frog like taking up residence in my throat.
It's like probably allergies, right? Like that's the time. We got this report for Wisconsin and I was like, it's one of those things where you read it and you go, crap. Because it was like allergies are 3 times worse than they were last year. I'm like, oh, really? Come on. I'm old enough where it's like,
I know. And I feel like I'm not going to even say that because that would be ageist. But yeah, it's just like it is right there. But in terms of LinkedIn, you know, I will tell you that Nat helped me for free and gave me a ton of value. And I thought to myself, well, if this is what I'm getting for free, imagine what I would get to pay for it if I paid for it. It's a low barrier of entry. So like literally anybody who's showing up as an entrepreneur can get it. And I wish I had it before I started my business.
That is what we like to hear.
Here we are.
Yes.
So yeah.
Tell us about your business though.
Yeah.
So tell us about the business. And then if you don't mind, we're going to go into that a little bit, not a lot, but to the situation that led you to Brand Built and to even the reason that we're talking, because I feel every entrepreneur needs to hear your story about that because it was like I'm doing great. Business is thriving. Yay, yippee-ki-yay, and then smack. And it's one of those stories that is needed. It needs to be heard because everyone thinks they're safe at some point in their career and in their life. And as soon as you become complacent, that's when this kind of stuff happens. So first of all, talk about the coaching company and pimp that out a little bit. and then we'll jump into the story.
Okay, so coaching, I would say, I got to back up a little bit. The first time I heard about coaching was in 2000, and I was in radio at the time. I was promotion director for 6 radio stations. And Steve Chandler, who is now a colleague and somebody who launched me into this world, wrote a book called 100 Ways to Create Wealth. And I had it in my car and I was listening to it. Okay, so put a pin in that. That's 2000. Fast forward 2009, I get laid off after the company I was working for was bought by venture capital. And I didn't know, like I had gone through mergers and acquisitions with my clients, but I had never experienced it firsthand. And I had no idea that venture capital comes in and chops things up for parts and like sells it off. No idea.
Cut.
Right.
You hear.
Exactly.
We don't care if you have jobs. Bye.
Right.
Yes.
So when that happened, honestly, Megan, I arrogantly sent out an email to all of my clients across the country saying, please pray for my colleagues, because at that point I was in sales, selling radio across the country. I had a talent for turning around.
You, hang on. In sales, you left a good chunk out there. In sales, selling radio, mind you, at a time when radio was dying.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's not that it was dead yet, but it was like, it was slowly going away. So anyway, Sorry, continue.
You're exactly right. And thank you for that context. I mean, 2008 for everybody else. I mean, I was just very talented at taking a client from pissed off to pure love. Like McDonald's was my client, and the first conference call, they were like, we hate you and we hate your company. And I was like, I've never met you before. What's going on? And basically the essence of it was the rep before me had them for 7 years and never appreciated them, went out of their way, gave them value, blah, 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 blah. So I took that year and really paid attention to them, plugged them in, earned value, all of that stuff. And by the end of the year, the woman who said that she hated me was at my wedding, and I raised their spending like 300. We got money out of, like, we got the market share. We got money from their PR bucket, their co-op bucket, the Ronald McDonald House, money we had never gotten before. And that was only one client. I had done that for like BMW North America, Dollar Tree, like all of that. And really, it's not rocket science. It was listening, asking questions, and making them feel like that they were appreciated. So fast forward to fourth quarter, when Bain Capital came and bought us, I was like, it's not going to be me, because I've recovered $1.6 million in local revenue and created $670,000. There's no way. And then I walked in January 20th, 2009, and I got a tap on my shoulder at 9:00 in the morning. I was walked into my boss's office by somebody who was replacing me, which I did not know. And I sit down in front of this, imagine it was like that big, heavy dark wood desk. The marketing director, who did not like me, is sitting in the chair next to me laughing. And I get handed this manila envelope with my name on it. And he said, you have 10 days to review this with your attorney and sign it. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, and I said, I don't understand why. And he said, we put your numbers through a corporate budget matrix, which does not exist. I have researched this thing. I have talked to my corporate. There is no such thing. It's made up. And then they said, you didn't make your numbers, which again, I called them out. I said, that's bullshit and you know it.
Were your numbers ever shared with you? Did you have quota numbers that you were supposed to be meeting at that point, in sales?
Okay. Yeah, and I was 150% above budget.
So they just were looking for a way to push you out.
Yeah, and I had filed my very first complaint with HR because I was getting harassed to the point where my car was keyed, my tires were slashed by colleagues, people were spitting on the floor of my cubicle. I had
How does all of this stuff happen and nobody gives a shit? Nobody notices. Nobody, if you are, and I'm making hypothesis here, but this is a great conversation, so I want to keep going down this road if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you're a strong woman, and I used to think, I guess I shouldn't say it that way, being a woman in technology for me has been incredibly difficult, right? Like it is a man's world, and I have had to fight my way, claw my way, and deal with all sorts of stuff just like that to get through it all, just to be heard. Like I could be standing way up here talking down, like screaming, and they're not listening to me. I'm the little girl in the back that they don't give a shit about what I say. And that's what, when you are a strong woman in the business world, sales, technology, and I'm finding out that it's just across the board. It is still that good old boys club, and you have to fight tooth and nail just to show up, just to get heard, just to like get your name on the ballot. And it is insane to me that even in 2000, 2001, that something like that would still happen.
Oh yeah.
How is this okay?
It still happens today. I mean, I was having a conversation with somebody at a multinational global yesterday, and it's happening to her as
Probably
well.
other people. Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
it's hard because you're exactly right, Megan. We have to fight tooth and nail, but we have to fight tooth and nail in an acceptable way. Meaning, if
Exactly.
we scream and yell and tantrum, guess what? Megan and Kelly are now crazy, hysterical women instead of looking at the content of what we're saying, which is valuable. So when all of this was
What she
going on,
means, guys, is we're now bitches. You can
no,
swear.
no,
We're now bitches.
we're not
If we
bitches.
no, but I'm saying that's what
Yeah,
people think, right? Like in the
yeah,
business world, we
oh
scream,
yeah,
we yell, we get upset, we show
yeah,
any emotion at all. We are bitches.
yeah. And if you're
But
a woman of
our male
color,
counterparts are allowed to do whatever they want.
yeah, and the unfortunate thing is if you're a woman of color, then there's that angry black woman trope, which is so problematic and so traumatic to that incredible community that has given so selflessly and forgiven us over and over and over again. Right.
Yeah.
But it's easier to point the finger and label us bitches than to actually look at the problem and go, well, maybe I'm contributing to that. And if I shift my behavior, I'll get a different result. So,
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah. And
Exactly.
at that moment in time, I had talked to other colleagues across the country about what was going on with me. And I was having all this success in spite of all the stuff that was going on with me. And the overarching advice that they gave me was go see a labor attorney, which I was like, I'm not interested in suing. Like, I don't. And they were like, just go talk to this person. He does
I just want to be done.
just see what your rights are, which thank God I did, because it comes full circle, in a second. He looked at me and he said, Kelly, labor lawsuits are expensive and they frequently favor the employer. So I recommend you file a report or a complaint with corporate HR. And I looked at him and I was like, I don't do that. Like, that's not like, I don't do that. I was hoping he would say, I'll write a strongly worded letter and we'll be done with it. But so anyway, long story short, it's easier to fire somebody who's a loudmouth or causing problems than it is to, keep somebody who may be in their eyes a little bit high maintenance or difficult, which is another like descriptor that
I
we
love
get.
that.
Or my other favorite is aggressive and abrasive. Have those too on the list of adjectives. After I get handed the manila envelope, the gentleman who escorted me to the office and was taking my place was standing there with HR, and HR said to me, we'll pack up your cubicle and send you your stuff. And luckily, I had that consultation with that lawyer because I was able to cite the
No thanks.
law.
I'll get my own stuff. Yeah.
Cite the law from the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I said, according to statute, blah, blah, blah. I don't like, it was like, it was one of those divine moments because I don't remember how I remembered that, but it was like, and you will
Don't
stand
touch my
there.
stuff.
You will stand there until I'm done packing up my stuff, and whatever is left, you can send to me. And the HR woman looked at me and went, like, how the hell did you know that? But what I picked up was my external hard drive and my wedding picture, because my husband was in Guantanamo Bay at the time, so I couldn't get a hold of him. And then they walked me to my car like a criminal. and I had never been walked before. So I go home, and it was about 7 days of grieving it. I'm not kidding, face down on the couch,
Yep.
puffy eyes, snot running. Like, I didn't shower. I barely
Ice cream and
ate.
potato chips.
Yeah, no,
Absolutely.
not even that.
100%.
Like, I think I got off the couch to let the dogs out and feed them. And it was just, I was down in it. Like, I was
Yep.
bathing in that pity party. Like, it was the best bath ever. And then on the seventh day, my golden retriever at the time, put her head in my lap and looked at me. And I know I'm humanizing her, but she was like, Mom, you got to get out of bed and put your
They have,
big girl panic.
no, they're, yeah.
Yeah.
Your animals know before you do. I don't care.
She did.
This dog back here, I mean, she's so attached to those kids and me. I mean, like, they know when you're deep down in it, and they don't want you there because it's no fun for them either.
No.
And they know they can't help you, so they're like, get out of it.
Yeah.
Let's go. Come on, get up.
Yeah. And that's honestly, Megan, you just hit the nail on the head with another initiative that I've been for 16 years rolling around in my head, but I think I'm finally going to do it, which is train our golden retriever to be a therapy dog. Because
Yep.
what I found during COVID, coaching the high ranking officers in the military, like, I would have these really stoic generals who were like, yes, I want to work on strategizing, blah, blah, blah. And then my dog would walk in on the camera, and all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, who is this? The cutest person. And I'm like, nice
Babies
to
and
finally meet
puppies.
you.
Babies and puppies.
Yep.
Give the guy a baby, walk a dog by him. There you go.
Yep.
Done.
Exactly. But what it does is it cracks them open so that I can see the vulnerable part of them, which is really where the rubber meets the road in mind shifting and transformation. So anyway, going back to the couch moment, I got in the shower and I was washing my hair, and I remember hearing a voice in my head saying, you got to do something more life affirming with your life. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that is. And then I remembered Steve Chandler. 2000, fast forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I go on his website, and he had this, I'm going to date myself, 12 disc CD course on called Mind Shift. And with it, you got a 90-minute coaching session with one of his coaches. So I get on this call, and I had sent this woman 25 pages of single space documentation of what Clear Channel did to me.
Of course you did. Oh my God.
So we get on this call, and she just lets me go. And I just go for 45 minutes complaining and whining and like victim, victim, victim. And she's quiet, and she says to me, are you open to some coaching around this? And I said, yeah, of course. And she goes, I think you're a victim and you need to take ownership of your life. I wasn't ready to hear that.
Done.
You told me I could swear. So I was like, fuck off. And I hung up the phone. And I sat at my desk, and I always find like intuition is God. And when I say God, I don't believe it's a being.
Right.
I believe it's a state of being. And whatever it is in your reality, whether you're Sikh, Hindu, Jewish, Christian, like, doesn't matter to me. Like, I don't care. Right. So 2 questions floated in my mind, and it was, is she right? And is there any truth to what she's saying? And both answers immediately came back yes. And I was like, well, I've got 45 minutes left on this free call. Let me call her back. So I called her back and apologized to her. And she became my coach for the next 3.5 years. Her name is Sharice McCrory. I absolutely adore her. She's not coaching anymore. She took care of her mom, who had Alzheimer's and dementia, and became more of an artist. But we talked a couple years ago, and she was like, you're the poster child for my coaching. Like, I can't believe what you've done with it. And she changed my life. That conversation changed my life. I mean, it was a wake-up call to what was holding me back. Now I was in marketing.
So let's fast forward for a minute, because what you just said. So I've had a few conversations with Kelly, obviously not on this podcast. And let's fast forward a little bit, because what you just said is exactly what you are now doing for other people.
Yep.
Now, different types of people, but that right there, the line that she just said, that is what Kelly does. I mean, at a fundamental level, boom, right there. You're changing people's lives. You are helping them cut through the bullshit. You are getting them out of their funk. You're getting them off the couch, throwing away their popcorn and ice cream, or chips and ice, whatever the heck they've got.
Yeah.
You know, I won't say you're the puppy dog. That's not cool, but seriously, you are changed at a fundamental level. If you are a leadership coach, because people really don't get it, in my opinion. They don't understand, right? From an operational level, every owner of every company, whether you're big or small, should have a coach, should have the champion in their corner, should have the therapist, the business therapist, as Darren calls it, to call up and vent to and cry to and be that, for me, is one of those operational things that you should just build into your damn calendar. Because it's sometimes you just need somebody to call up and complain to for 15 minutes. All right, I gotta go back do my task list now, right? Like, there's nobody, especially now. Look where I am. I'm in my office here, like in my home office. I got my dog to talk to. My kids aren't here. I'm not gonna talk to my teenagers. They don't care about my business woes. They don't care about my clients. It's kind of crazy to me. I mean, coaching is all the rage, right? Like, but it's more of a, when you hear people talk about coaching, it's not like we're talking about it right now. You hear people talk about coaching, it's like this fad, right? Like it's the cool thing to do. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. It's not the cool thing to do. Like, you should do it because you actually need it. You should do it because if you actually want to move forward in your business and get yourself out of the funk that you may or may not be in, or just to have a friend on the other end of your Zoom call or your phone or whatever it may be, somebody to text message with. These are all things that I think should be fundamentally built into your operational systems of your business.
And
for your employees. Let's talk about that for a minute. I'm going to jump way back into the beginning of what Kelly said when she was doing the HR thing. That is just fundamentally, systematically, operationally incorrect and all sorts of wrong. People focus on the onboarding portion of their employees, the internal onboarding for employees. No one focuses on the exit strategy. You can fire somebody with grace. You can let somebody go in a way that doesn't make them feel like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You know what? Sometimes it's not just a good fit. If you had walked in there, first of all, there should have been nobody else in that room except for you and your boss. That's one. Legally, that's not allowed. Two, all your boss really had to say is like, hey, I'm really sorry. This just isn't working for us right now. And then if you had asked why, they would have had to actually come up with something, not just an excuse. But this is not just Kelly's story. It's everybody's story. So as we always talk about operations on this podcast, this is one of those things. I'm so glad we went down this road. I wasn't even expecting it. But your exit strategy for your employees needs to be a fucking thing, especially if you're at that level.
Yep.
You can let somebody, and you know what? Darren has a really amazing story about for this, and I'm gonna have to bring him back on the podcast and actually talk about it because he owned a company. He sold it for $40 million. He's had to fire people. When you listen to how he talks about how he let people go, that's a leader, right? That's how you let people go. In fact, let's talk about you for a minute because you just had, again, of course, this kind of, we said slap, right? Like everything's going great, whatever. I'll let you kind of tell it. But then you just had to let people go. And I remember from our first conversation when you were talking about it, how respectful you were when you did it and how it cut you, at your core. Like, you didn't want to let them go. But at this point, like, you had to, and you were so good about it. Like, at least that's how you were explaining it to me. So I would love to just fast forward and jump into the last few years. Because obviously you had this amazing buildup, right? And you had this amazing mentor and coach. And then, and so you hit the ground running. And
Yeah. So I actually got to work with Steve Chandler on his book, The Prosperous Coach. I was one of 40 coaches invited to this World Coaching Symposium in London. And he talked about like how to build a prosperous practice. And 2 weeks later, I signed my biggest client at the time, right? And it was really just a groundswell from there, right? And then when we moved to Philadelphia in 2013, it leveled the business up in a way I didn't expect. In fact, I was going to close my practice, and then I had all these interviews and I was like, and this doesn't feel good to me. So, and then I would come home from these interviews and there would be 3 inquiries from new clients. And I was like, okay, I got it. Like, this is where I'm supposed to stay. And then COVID hit and I had just fired my biggest client. And the reason I fired them is because sexism, racism, misogyny, homophobia, all from their 40 employees that came to talk to me when I was working on the operations side and the sales side. And I kept saying to the founders, you guys are up for a sale. InBev is about to buy you. And if you have any kind of operational, including people, problems, and it comes out, it's going to be a problem. Well, guess what? They didn't listen, and an open letter from their employees came out on Medium detailing everything. And what was interesting, Megan, is the employees posted it on Facebook at the time. And within 60 seconds, there were 1,000 comments from consumers like validating their complaints. Well, for me as an entrepreneur, it was a $6,000 a month retainer. And we're going into COVID. And I was like, this has been a fun ride. Okay. And then talk about relationships, because that's something that the brand built is excellent at. It's creating connections, creating relationships, all of that. I had met this woman one time for 2 hours in 2014, and randomly in February 2020, I get this call and she's like, Kelly, it's Marilyn Wiles. And I was always shout her out because she saved my business. She saved my business. And she said, are you still coaching? And I said, yup. She goes, your husband's a disabled veteran, right? I go, yup. She's like, I have this huge government contract coaching high ranking officers on emotional intelligence and emotional well-being. Do you want to be part of it? I'm like, yup. Now, I will say to you, I'm a high fee coach, right? That was the lowest and best rate. But here's what I did. I was like, all right, I'm going to take as many people as I can. I don't care what she's paying me. I'm going to treat this like graduate school for coaching. And I really honed my process, like on what worked, what didn't work, tools and resources that really resonated and created a transformation in these people. Understand, I don't come in as a coach to judge you, tell you what to do, or yell at you. I'm not going to do that. What I do is share information. And if it resonates with you, take it and make it your own. If it doesn't, that's okay too. I'm just there as a guide. And I got so good at it that people started requesting me. And then Department of Homeland Security came as part of her contracts, and then Department of Transportation and FEMA and TSA. And what I was hearing was, we are traumatized, exhausted, and burnt out, and nobody is talking about it. And I was like, okay, let's talk about it. Right. Yeah. So, that's really how it happened. And then that those contracts ended in 2024. And I'm glad, because the prime contractor, it turned out they did some not so good things, illegal things.
Nice.
So thank God I was third. Like, it was subcontracted to Maryland and then to me. And luckily we had another big contract come in from a local state government by 2 states that handle this organization. And it was really great. And the executive director really loved us. And Kelly is an idealist and a realist and an optimist, but did not realize that she was getting snowed by a career politician who basically picked a fight with the wrong person, because it's a political appointment. And the person he picked a fight with was the incoming governor, who appointed somebody else over him. And then all of a sudden, Kelly and her coaches are assholes. Even though for a year and a half, it was, you are singing her praises and like all of this stuff. And it was frustrating. So we lost that. And then another contract, mid-size pharma, loved them, worked with them for 7 years. HR never reached out to me, even when the point of contact, the head of the department, got thyroid cancer and was out and isolated in a hospital room by herself during COVID. Her family could only communicate with her through a window. They never I reached out to them several times to support the efforts of the department. I kept those people in their seats. Then I get an outreach July of 2024 from HR asking me to talk to them about issues that were being caused by the CEO and a best friend of his that he hired. And I was like, I can't talk to you about that.
Yeah,
And they
it's
were
all
like, why
confidential.
not? And I said, I have an NDA with your company and with each of these people. So what I will tell you I will do is I will talk to each of them, get their permission. I will get them to submit to me in writing what I can and can't share. I will draft that email, get them to approve it, and then I will send it to you. And she kept insisting, can you get on the phone with me? And luckily, I had an attorney at the time, and the International Coaching Federation has an ethics line. So I called them about what I can
Right.
and can't do. And they validated the process, send the email, and the contract gets paused. And that was
Of
October.
course.
And that was 25% of our revenue. Then new administration comes in and they canceled 2 of our big contracts. So now, like you said,
Mhm.
I had gotten complacent, and I not rested on my laurels because that's
It's like
really not
comfortable. You get
me.
comfortable, right? Because it's like you're in a groove. Everything you're doing is working. And this is no fault on Kelly at all, because we all do this. Every single one of us does this. Because she's obviously kicking ass, right? She's kicking ass. She's got contracts. She's doing her thing. It's all working. And it's just that your brain does it. Like it's not even something you can control. Everything's working. You're in a groove, and so you get comfortable and you get complacent. Not even by choice. It is just a psychological thing that happens to the human brain and happens to the human body because there's no red flags until there is.
Right.
And it's like, oh, wait, where the hell did that come from? Out of left field. So let's talk about what you did when that happened, because again, like I said, I really wanted you to tell the story of, like having to have those conversations, the tough conversations of, you did have a small team. You had to let a bunch of people go. And you kept a
Mhm.
few people and had to let a bunch of people go. But again, you did it with grace, and you did it in a way that wasn't you being an asshole. Like it wasn't your experience. And I think because you went through that experience, you're probably never going to be like that. Because why the hell would you want to treat another human like that?
Right.
Girl,
And you don't
boy,
have to.
otherwise. Yeah.
Right.
There's no
Just
reason
like
for it.
you were talking about Darren, and I'll tell you the story about the team in 1 second, but I had the privilege of meeting Lee Cockrell, who wrote Creating Magic, and he was the operations side of Walt Disney World Parks and Resorts, right? I had lunch with him. And he talks about how he let a guy go because his position was redundant. But what Disney did, which is what I always recommend to organizations that are doing layoffs, is they contracted with a outplacement service. So this person, because of their senior leadership role, they had it until they got placed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward 2 years down the road, a position opens up for that person. Lee hires him back. And I'm like, this is not rocket science. It's right. Okay. So
Yeah.
the first team I laid off, and this we had to, was the marketing firm because they
Yeah.
did not deliver. Like,
Yeah.
I am one of those people, as you can see, that's a missionary and advocate for things that work, brand built, right?
Yep.
I'm going to tell everybody about it because if it works for me, I want to be able to help everybody else. We caught them in a lie. They started
Mm.
gaslighting us, which is a trigger for me because I'm a 3-time sexual assault survivor. So, and I kept trying to hold them accountable and make it right. And then every time I would go to our weekly meetings, I would have a pit in my stomach. And I'm like, wait a second, I hired them to help me. Like, what the hell? And I shouldn't feel like that. And the other members of my team were very upset for me.
Yeah.
So we parted ways. That was the first one. And then all of these things started to kind of collapse. And I had to call my content manager, Colleen Miller, who is one of the best content managers like out there. And I said, I have to pause us right now. This is not permanent, but I have to pause us because I got to get things flowing again. And I
Right.
can't do that. Right. And then the second, which, as you were talking about this earlier, I could feel myself getting choked up because it's an all
I
female
saw
team.
it and I felt so bad. I was like, no,
I
I'm going to make her cry.
I love them so much. And then Gigi Peterkin and Joelle Polisky, who were with Amplify PR. As far as I'm concerned, the best PR company in the business. The first 2 quarters, they got me in front of 9.8 million eyes. First quarter of this year, they got me in front of 12.1 million. And they were just delivering like crazy. And I had to call Gigi and say, I have to pause us because I can't continue. Well, I also have a graphic artist and a web designer in India, and I called her. Didn't call her. I Zoomed with her, and she's like, "You've supported me. I'm going to work for free." And I was like, "Hold on, I can't.
Bingo.
I can't do that. Like, I can't." And she was like, "I'm giving you a gift, and this is my choice." And I was like, and I hear my husband upstairs going, "Just take it." And I was like, okay.
I'm going to tell you that is the perfect spot for us to stop and pause. And that's a wrap, because that right there is the story of a good leader. You have people who are willing to work for you for free, right?
Yeah. And not just
Those are
one,
the
two.
people. Yeah, those are the leaders that everybody needs to be around, right?
Yeah.
And those are the people that you want to have in your inner circle. You want to have people that love you so much that when you're transparent and honest and you have to tell them hard things, they are accepting, they understand, would rather work for you for free than go out and work for the jackass across the street, right? Like, I mean, that is the thing. It's all about human emotion and human connection and finding the real deal. And I can't thank you enough for sharing your story. Tell people how they can get a hold of you, because I want people to go out and check out your content, because your content there on LinkedIn is really good. And I want people to reach out. Obviously, like if people want a leadership coach, they should talk to you. And even if you can't help them, I know that you're somebody who is going to point them in the right direction.
Yes.
Like they're not ready for you. Maybe they're ready for something else. They're ready for brand build. They're ready for whatever. Kelly is going to be able to help you and point you in the direction. I know she's willing to jump on a call with you and hear you out. And I just don't have enough words to say. There's so many good things about her. And I want people to follow you. I want people to become your friend on social media, this thing that we're all obsessed with called LinkedIn. Oh my God. We'll drop all the information in the show notes too, so that people can just go and like click and find you.
Sure. So kellymeerbott.com. So it's KELLYMEERBOTT.com. There's a contact form, like Megan said, LinkedIn. I mean, you asked me what I did. I doubled down on LinkedIn, and that's how I've met Nat, and that's how I met you. That's how I met Darren. LinkedIn is, as far as I'm concerned, like it's been a consistent platform for me, for clients, for connections, for everything. So follow me on LinkedIn, interact with our content, please. I want to hear you. And if you don't agree with me, I'm good with that. I want you to disagree. So yeah, the website or LinkedIn, and then always like, you can always DM me. I'm happy to chat with you. And yeah, I'm always up for a complimentary leadership coaching session. And I was on with some guy last week. I was like, you don't need me. Just keep doing what you're doing.
And that's what's great about you is you're not going to be, you're not just going to take somebody's money. So this is where coaching, I think, has an issue. People take people's money just to take people's money. And that's not Kelly. So if you're looking for somebody who's the real deal and you're looking for an actual coach that's going to actually give a shit about you in your life, definitely go check her out. And on that note,
thank you.
I am so excited for you and where your business is going. And I really appreciate you jumping on. And everybody, remember, we're going to change this from now on. I think it's going to be that operations is only as good as it works. How would you help you make it work? Because it's more than just technology. And this episode goes to show you that the operations of your business it all starts with your mind and your emotions and the health of your own personal being, right? Like if you don't have any of that, the rest of your business is just going to crumble. So that's a wrap, everybody. And we will see you next week.